Welcome to Seaton Speaks. I am your host, David Seaton, and we are having a special edition. Joining me today, none other than Aaliyah Graham. Thanks for joining me today, Aaliyah, on such short notice.
Again, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
No problem. Obviously, today, the big news, the verdict in the Officer Derek Chauvin trial. Guilty on all three counts: second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and I believe it was second-degree manslaughter. He was found guilty on all three. Did you watch the trial at all?
I watched very little pieces of the trial. I could not stand to watch it. And I think, too, my perception of our legal system is not promising. So I thought it was a waste of time, and I definitely didn't think he would get convicted.
Well,
I mean, we watched Rodney King too, and Rodney King got beat for however many minutes or whatever, and every one of those officers got off. So I did not think that this would be a favorable verdict.
that is true when you go back to Rodney King, but the prosecution had 37 witnesses.
38.
38 witnesses. The defense had 7.
7, yep.
7 witnesses. So I guess speak to what it's like as an African-American woman to have so little confidence in our justice system and to see a guilty verdict. Because remember, this jury was composed of 6 white people, 4 black people, and then 2 biracial. So I don't have the gender breakdown, but 6 of the 12 jurors were white. Speak to what it feels like to have that trepidation going through the trial and then seeing a guilty verdict on all 3 counts today.
Well, like I said, I have very little hope or faith in the justice system. Simply, just historically, it has not been a thing, and it's never favorable for African Americans. But I don't have the pressures, and I don't have the, women aren't killed like Black men. We haven't noted the Sandra Bland, who is my sorority sister. It hurts to see. It hurts to see that Black men have to deal with so much. Having a Black son, and then the slap in the face when they're not prosecuted, it hurts. It hurts. And I think it might even be magnified because 2020, we were stuck in the house observing all of these negative things and negative, we kind of festered in it because we didn't have an outlet. We were.
But let me ask you this. Do you think the fact that the murder of George Floyd by Officer Chauvin happened during the pandemic, and because everyone was home and they had to watch it live, they didn't get to see it. They didn't have to watch it chopped up by Fox News and Newsmax and OAN television. Everybody was sitting at home and saw it live, and they saw that entire event. Do you think that played into us getting a guilty verdict?
If this would have happened maybe 10 years ago, I would say yes. But I honestly feel like when I look at the news right now, there is a multitude of diversity. Everybody is sick of this. I don't feel like it's just a Black or a white issue as far as race goes. I know I'm tired of racial issues. I'm tired of people making decisions about skin color. I just feel like people are tired of seeing this as a whole and not just, and because of COVID, we had a lot more time to digest it. Like if I were at work, like you said, I would get snippets at 5 o'clock when I got home. I would not get the entire story. I even had a conversation with my husband, and even he says, you know, had this verdict not come out as it did, um, I feel like it would have been like civil unrest across the nation. Everybody is tired of this. I would like to think that everybody is tired of this.
I mean, you had people marching all over the world
Mm-hmm,
over the
mm-hmm.
last year over the mistreatment of African Americans in this country.
Absolutely. And then you think, why? Why? We have advanced so much as a nation. Why are people so mad? Like, why? There is enough fruit in the land for everybody to eat.
That's a great point. Has it though? I mean, because when we look at George Floyd, when I looked at this case, to me this seems irrefutable. To your point, if he would have been found not guilty, there would have been a ton of civil unrest, and I believe rightfully so. But
I wholeheartedly agree.
but
Wholeheartedly.
the fact that we had to see this man get killed in the middle of the day in broad daylight on camera, and it
Mhm.
had to be so egregious. I mean, I hate to sound like, because I've heard some of the pundits who have come out initially after this and saying, oh, well, this wasn't a big deal because, you know, we've had all these other murders where the police officers have gotten away with it. But
Yeah.
I guess speak to that, that this case had to, it had to almost be this egregious in order for us to get guilty on all three counts. Or is it the egregiousness of the murder, or is it that society really is evolving to the point where even non-black people are saying, okay, enough is enough?
Well, I feel like we saw that with there's been so many African American men killed by the police, and now with this 13-year-old brown boy in Chicago. Ooh, that's a good question.
Well,
That's
that's
a
interesting you bring that up. Let me push you on that. I'm glad you brought that up. Is that the same thing? Is a 13-year-old boy running down a dark alley being chased by the police with a air gun in his hand in a dark, shadowy alley, and then he turns around, puts his hands up, but the police officer shoots him within a second, and immediately administers him aid. Is that the same thing as the murder of George Floyd?
I definitely don't feel like it's the same thing, but I do feel like there is a lack of training. Don't they teach you this in the police academy? I've never been to the police academy. I don't know, but you have to know that if you're cutting someone's oxygen off from them, that they're going to die. Now if you're a 13-year-old who definitely did not look like a 13-year-old, because I from what I saw, he appeared to be very tall. So I don't know that a cop would, know if these kids are bigger than like adults now. And I'm not saying that's a reason to kill somebody. Don't
No,
please don't.
understood.
But I can definitely, if I'm afraid, chances are you're afraid. So your first reaction should never be to shoot unless someone's shooting at you. So if he had a gun, like just comply. You're 13, and I think he was attempting to comply, which is why he turned around with his hands up. Now I don't even know if it's been proven that he had a gun or
It
not.
was an air gun.
It's
It was never. But in the
still
dark
a threat.
shadow,
If I'm a cop,
yeah,
it's still a threat.
in a
Like
dark shadowy alley, you can't tell the difference
exactly,
between a air gun
exactly.
or what have you. So,
Still not enough to shoot. Still not enough to shoot
well, that
because
takes
you are trained to use other vices. You could say freeze, put the gun down, and then take it from there. Was there a warning given to this young man?
supposedly, when you
See,
look at the,
I don't
but
know enough.
but again, here's the thing: is okay. So we made that distinction. We've also got the Daunte Wright murder up in Minnesota that happened 10 miles
Mm-hmm.
away. He's
Mm-hmm.
being arrested because he has a warrant. He tries to break away from the police officer, get in his car and drive away. Did that young man see? That's what I guess that's my point. The George Floyd case is singularly unique, and I think when we start like trying to throw all of these incidents into the same box, we're doing the George Floyd murder a disservice. And when I look at the Daunte Wright issue, I'm of the mind, like you just said a moment ago, he would still be alive had he complied, or would he?
I think that white woman wanted to kill somebody.
Really?
I really do. I really do. Because how do you not know the difference between a taser and a gun? Like, seriously. I think she seriously wanted to kill somebody just to see what it was like. And this gentleman, had he complied, would probably still be alive. However, I think she probably was itching to kill somebody. Like,
I don't have any data to back that up, but what
I mean, neither do I. This is just personal opinion.
But what I will say is, there's a different. I mean, again, and that's what made the George Floyd, the defense of Derek Chauvin, so uncomfortable to watch, because they made it sound like George Floyd is on the ground and he's resisting arrest while he's got 4 police officers on top of him and one of the guys is on his neck. So is this a good day? Is this a good day? The conviction of Officer Derek Chauvin, is this a good day? Is this a day of celebration for Black people? Or is this just a small blip on the radar because we might find ourselves here tomorrow?
I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like it's a promising day. Okay. It's not a good day. It's a promising day. And we want the judicial system to be on our side sometimes too. Like, if I go out as an African-American woman and I kill somebody, you are at my door. I'm getting the maximum amount of time. It should not be an exemption because you wear a police uniform. It shouldn't be. If I do a crime, I'm prosecuted for it. So if you do a crime, you should be prosecuted for it as well. Now, the gentleman who got murdered by the woman for not complying, I tell my son, do whatever they ask you to do. Because at the end of the day, you're just going to be sitting in a cell in a police station until someone comes and get you. That's the worst that can happen. If you don't comply, you will probably die.
And I hate when I hear African Americans say, well, sometimes they shoot people who do comply. Like, and they use that as an excuse, because I've heard Black people say, well, he was afraid. Well,
cops are afraid too, though.
Correct.
But they got the gun.
Correct. And again, I'm not saying that Daunte Wright or an African American or any person in that situation doesn't have a right to be afraid. However, if you know there's a chance that you could get shot by complying, you're pretty much guaranteeing that you're going to get shot when you don't comply.
Exactly.
And if your goal is to get out of the encounter to live another day, then just comply.
Then just comply. Just comply. And I know, and the very unfortunate part about the entire situation is I'm watching it in the news as an older woman. If I was 20, 19, this might be instilling a enormous level of fear in me for the police. So if I do get stopped by a police officer in my youth, I might not necessarily know how to respond or react to it, because they're portrayed as it's supposed to be to protect and serve, but we don't always feel like that's our community. So if I'm a 19, 20-year-old, or even 13, if I'm a 13-year-old, I don't comply because I'm afraid. So me as an older police officer should know, okay, this is a kid. Like, let's try to be a different level with this kid. But with the George Floyd situation, like, that guy took so much pleasure in having his knee on his back. And it's the typical slave, inferior, superior mentality. It's disheartening.
Last thing, Derek Chauvin can get up to 40 years for second-degree murder, 25 years for the third-degree murder, and I believe 10 years for the second-degree manslaughter. So he's looking at a possible maximum 75 years. How how long do you think he should be sentenced?
Well, George Floyd doesn't have his life, so, and not for not, like, you shouldn't get out. You intentionally killed that man. Even if you didn't know that he would die, let me take it back. Because murder, if you're convicted of murder, you have to show intent. So maybe it wasn't his intention to kill him.
That's first degree murder, right?
Exactly. So I definitely feel as though he should get 75 years. I don't think he will. I think the judge is going to, what is it called? The sentence will run congruently. Is that the right word?
Concurrently means it's
concurrently.
Yeah.
So whatever time he might get the 25 years. He might get whatever. They're going to run consecutively together. And he'll be out in 15, 20 years.
15, 20 years as a police officer who killed George Floyd in a nationally recognized trial, that's not going to be a cakewalk. He might not make it the first day.
What's the Laquan McDonald's? Mm-hmm. What was that cop's name? Is he still in jail?
I believe so.
Okay, so I think it'll be a cakewalk for him. They're not going to put him in general population. They're going to put him.
He's not going to be in Gen Pop, but he's not going to be able to stay 100% isolated for the length of his term. But you know what? We'll see. I don't think that he'll get the maximum, but I don't think he'll get the minimum either, because they already said during the trial he had some other indiscretions in his police career that were suppressed during the trial.
You got to slap on the wrist.
Come out and sentence him.
We'll see. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to get, hopefully, he'll get the time that he deserves for this. He took too much pleasure in it, and people need to pay for their sins. Like, come on, man, you are a cop. You're here to protect and serve. You're not here to put your knee on somebody's back and, and I hope that this will serve as an example for other police officers who take things too far. Like, in my opinion, unless you're terribly intoxicated, which I know they brought up past, his drug use or what have you. Exactly. I don't even know if he was high that day, but that's not enough reason to kill somebody when you have a taser.
Right. Well, I guess here's the last question, and we can just leave this one rhetorically. This is just for all of our watchers to think about. Is this trial going to show other police officers there are consequences for your actions? Or is this trial just going to show police officers how to be more shrewd when they are exacting street justice? But
I feel like, I know it's rhetorical, but I gotta say my piece. There are Klan members who are cops, and they are pissed about this verdict.
Exactly. No,
so
that's true. Well, let's leave it right there. But I want to
know what your opinion is. Like, how does it make you feel as a Black man? Like, you walk this life every day. I don't know what it's like to.
I've had police interaction. I've had 3 or 4 police interactions very recently. One where I was speeding, one where I did an illegal U-turn, one where I did something else. And in all of those cases, I wasn't met with any aggression from the police officer, but I didn't get. I think that again, I'm nervous when I'm in an area that with which I'm unfamiliar. But it's always in the back of my mind that if I do get pulled over by a cop and that cop is having a bad day, then it doesn't matter what I do. I could be yes sir, no sir, whatever. But if I run across the wrong cop on the wrong day, that's what makes it, that's what gives me anxiety. So I try to control the situation when I interact with police to try and make sure that that the threat level that they perceive is minimum, so that's my way of controlling the situation.
I understand.
So again, that's all any of us can do as a Black man in this country is We know that there are police officers out there who are bad police officers. We know there are police officers out there who don't know how to de-escalate. So,
and don't want to de-escalate.
but if at the end of the day, if at the end of the day I'm trying to get home to my wife and my family,
Absolutely.
Me in an interaction with a police officer with a firearm is the wrong situation for me to try and prove myself.
I agree.
Because I gotta get home to my wife and my family. Because
that's right.
That's what's
right.
most important. But you are listening to Seaton Speaks. I'm your host, David Seaton, joined as always, my favorite co-host, Leah Graham, talking about this Derek Chauvin trial. This is just something we wanted to put together really quickly. We will come back to you with some more content very soon. And thank you for joining us. Have a great day and get vaccinated. Be safe.
Be safe, guys.